If you would, turn with me to Acts chapter 15, starting in verse 37. It says, "Now Barnabas wanted to take with them John called Mark, but Paul thought best not to take him, for he had withdrawn from them in Pamphylia and not gone with them to the work. And there arose a sharp disagreement, so they separated from each other. So after this happened, Paul took Silas and went one way. Barnabas took Mark and went another. And Paul and Barnabas had this big split because of Mark. Not sure exactly why Mark left them, essentially to hang out to dry in Pamphylia, but he had his reasons for doing that. But it was enough that Paul wanted nothing to do with him at that time. And I love this because it's relatable to us. It's something we can relate with. For whatever reason, Mark messed up in Paul's eyes because he had left him. And he was, in his mind, good riddance to Mark at that time. But in reality, I think we all have a little bit of Mark in us. And I can relate to Mark. We all make mistakes. But we can't let our mistakes be our label, but rather we must let what we do after those shortfalls define who we are. We see this throughout secular history, where there have been mistakes in judgment made that created conflict between people, but they forged ahead for a common purpose. Jefferson and Adams, Lamar and Houston, Lee and Longstreet, Lincoln and Sherman, Truman and MacArthur. Every one of these individuals had major disagreements over mistakes that were made by one or the other, but history remembers their accomplishments, not their mistakes. Mark messed up. He could have just given up at that time and said, "I'm done. Paul didn't want to deal with me. I don't want to deal with him. I'm done with all this." And I'm sure he felt bad and maybe even some guilt for what he had done by leaving them, but he didn't let that define him. And it probably didn't hurt that he had the son of encouragement, Barnabas, with him. And I can envision Mark maybe sitting there feeling bad about what happened, causing the split, and maybe not being able to be with Paul. Maybe even feeling sorry for himself. But I can, in my mind, see Barnabas saying, "No, you're more than that. You're more than what happened in Pamphylia. We have work to do for the Lord, and let's get busy." So in the end, what happened to Mark? I think there's a lot we can learn from him, because if you look deep, there was a lot of conflicts that went on, and that's what people do. That's the human part of what we read in the Bible. For one thing, Peter ended up referring to Mark as his son. If you look in 1 Peter chapter 5 and verse 13, that's pretty good. That's a pretty good thing to be remembered by. He authored one of the Gospels in his namesake, which focuses on Christ as the greatest servant. That ain't too bad either to be remembered by. And finally, on death row, we know in 2 Timothy, Paul awaited his execution, probably within days. We don't know when he wrote that, but it was soon. But of all the people that he could ask Timothy to bring and all the things that he wanted, he made sure to mention, "I want Mark. I need Mark with me now. He is useful to me in the ministry." So we go from Paul wanting nothing to do with Mark to right at his death, Paul saying, "Out of everybody, bring me Mark. I need him." That's a pretty good change of events for an individual. So if there's someone that's going to be remembered by anything in their life, those are not bad things to be remembered by. So what can we learn from this? Our past mistakes do not have to define our future. If you mess up in life, don't ever feel like you can't get back on track. We see that with Mark. It's never too late to make things right with someone you've let down. Never too late. We see that over and over, and especially with Mark's life. And finally, we all need a Barnabas in our life, don't we? Or we need to be a Barnabas to someone else to encourage others, to be a moral compass for them and help them get through their hard times. And there's a lot of things going on, even in this congregation, with health issues and things that are going on where you can get down and discouraged. And tonight, I just wanted to bring to attention Mark in his life. And there's not a whole lot written about Mark, but there's enough in there that we can glean a lot of useful information to help us be encouraged and how we can help each other through our daily struggles. So if there's anyone here that has any issues or problems that they want the prayers of the congregation, now's the time that you can come forward and make that known. Or if you wish to be baptized and become a son of Christ, to be a family and be recognized as a member here and a member of God's family, we're here to assist you with that too. So please do that. Come forward as we stand and sing.